Hello, family, and we are here with Ron's audio chat series number 38. We're so glad that you joined us. We're here with Ron, Dom, Mr. Mouse, and myself. Ron, how are you tonight?
I'm doing well, getting over my
Fantastic.
cold.
Well, you sound much better, I can say.
Good, good, good,
All right.
good.
Well, are you ready to get started with our first question?
Yes, I am.
Perfect. All right. I wanted to get some clarity with your permission. Can you give me an explanation of the one and only true God and how he relates to Anunnaki, Enki, and our creations compared with the Jehovah God relation? And is there an order of hierarchy to the one true God?
Well, that's some interesting. You've been hearing a lot or studying a lot. I think that that's really good, and I can give you my explanations and the way that I see things from the different. There are three different things. One is from Sir Lawrence Gardner. I don't know if you know who he is. He's a um, prior, whatever that means, Prior. And prior has to do with reading records. He had access to the Vatican Vault, and to the um, Roman Chronicles, and through his reading and so forth, he comes into the Anunnaki in Enlil and Enki, who were the Anunnaki. That they're not the only ones, obviously, but so you've got one name there with Enki. It's Enki, and the Anunnaki is their father is Anu, and that's where you get the word Anunnaki. Um, I won't go into a lot of history about them, except to say this. Um, Ishmael Perez says that Enki is the bad one, but Ishmael Perez is a descendant of Enlil, who is not, he wasn't so bad. Well, he was bad enough, but he had a son named Marduk. Now, Enki and Enlil are the Lord of the Old Testament, Enki, and the God of the Old Testament, who we call Jehovah, but that was Enlil. Okay. They had intercourse with their sister, another Anunnaki, and Enki produced Eve, and Enlil produced Adam. Now, they're looking for the higher bloodline. The Anunnaki bloodline was the highest that's been on this earth, I suppose, um, as far as um, techno- technological aspects of blood and that sort of things. So it's not a spiritual. These people, I don't believe, as far advanced as they were on a physical, technical sort of way, they didn't have a comparable um, evolution towards their spiritual aspect. Uh, they didn't treat the humans when they came here. The humans were here. They came into the Gold Coast of Africa. Gold Coast is um, no, there's three or four of them. It's on the it's the West Coast, and it's called the Gold Coast or the Ivory Coast over in the West Coast, all the way to the western side. But between there and where it turns and goes south, that's the Gold Coast. You've got I'm not remembering the names of the countries, but they have there on that Gold Coast, they have some mines that have been mined by very highly technical people. that they don't know how. I believe in my mind the difference is that they used lifting the stuffs with their own technology instead of using something to bring it up out of the ground. Anyway, they were looking for gold to help their atmosphere, and that's what they came for. When they sent their teams down to help or to do the mining, they were here for many years. And when those who came from the starship Nibiru, SpaceX, or whatever you want to call it, I don't care what you call it, it has a 26,000-year orbit around our sun and would be called a planet if it had a circular orbit, but it doesn't. It's an elliptical orbit, and it for some reason and somehow it has a lot of um, overtones to this to our Earth at the present time. 26,000 or 26,000 divided by 2 is 13,000. There's 13,000 years of asleep and 13,000 years awake. When they get closer to the sun, then they're awakening, and when they're going away from the sun, then they're sleeping. Well, we're starting to go into the 26,000 years, excuse me, 13,000 years where we're awake. It's fascinating story, but Jehovah is Enlil. Jehovah that they worship as the God of the Old Testament, he's the one that has the um, he's he's a mean God. I don't care how you call it, whatever you want to call it. You do what I say or I'll kill you. And that was his attitude towards the humans who were still on the earth. And so we wanted to create a group or a bloodline of people that could be called the kings and the queens, who would be the ones who ruled over the people. Now, the way they set it up, you would have the bloodline, which would be called the bloodline of the Holy Grail. The Grail Kings, now you're getting into Sir Lawrence Gardner, and he talks about the Grail Kings. And the Grail Kings, we find them in the Bible. There's King David, King Solomon, um, the King of Kings, Lord of Lords is Jesus, Yeshua. Sananda is his spiritual name. So we're going into our history. Now, obviously, we didn't all descend from Adam and Eve because the humans were here at the same time. And they were not an evolved people. The Africans, and I'm not demeaning anything by that. I'm just saying that we come down to the earth in the third dimensional realm, then we have an evolution of who we are. Now, if we did have our DNA structure with us, then we would be functioning as gods for the thousands and thousands of years that we have been here on this earth. But we got involved with Marduk invited the Ankara alliance to the earth, and they are the bad people. They're the draconians. And without that introduction to the earth, we wouldn't be under the control of the cabal all those many years of our life. Jehovah was the one that was going to cause the floods because people wouldn't listen to him, wouldn't obey his commands. And the Lord, Enki, loved the people, loved the humans. He loved to have intercourse with them. Call it what you want, but he had love. And Enlil, Jehovah, I'm going to cause a flood. So Enki, the Lord of the Old Testament, told Noah to build the ark. And that was the way that he was going to save the people. So he was one who would save, and the revengeful God of the Old Testament Jehovah was Enlil. Now that you got that straight, there's people like Perez. I forgot his name, first name. It'll come to me. Ishmael. He's saying that Enki is the bad one. Now, why does he even know about that? Who's told him? Where did he find out all of the information that he has? And boy, when he starts talking, he's got a lot of information. Another person like him is Kim Gogan. And Kim Gogan will go on about things that are really true in the spiritual sense, but it's never written down. And there's no way to justify for them to justify it with any of their records. They just pout off their knowledge. Kim Gogan says she's from Eve. Well, why would she say something like that? Aren't we all from Eve? Well, if you know about the history of things, you know that Eve is the one that Enki produced with his sister Nenherdzack, and Adam was from Enlil. And then Eve came to Adam and said, I have gotten me a child from the Lord. To me, to me, it makes total sense. And so the first child that she bore from either of these two was Cain, and the second one was Abel, and that child came from intercourse with Adam. Both Cain and Abel, their mother was Eve. Well, now you hear Kim Gogan say, I'm from Eve. And then you hear Ishmael Perez saying that I'm from, that Enlil is the bad one, the good one, and Enki's the bad one. Well, get those two together and have them figure out what they want to be true. The fact is that both of them came from Enlil, and through the loins of Marduk, who compromised the earth, and they are the cabal from his line, not from Enki's line. Enki was their first son was Cain, and he had the higher bloodline. And the Bible says, well, he spilt the blood. No, he just had the greater bloodline than Cain or Abel. And so the cabal doesn't want Abel or Cain to be the one he's the one that has the birthright, the higher bloodline. But they didn't want that to be true, and distorted it all up and said that Cain slew Abel. He didn't kill Abel. And by the way, who were they that the Cain or anybody else married? If there weren't children on the earth or humans on the earth before that. There's some things that you just can't talk away from. You can't tell everybody the truth because the Bible is not true. Adam and Eve is a story. It's a fictional story as far as the cabal are concerned, but they want you to believe that that's really true. And I don't care which one you believe or who you care about. I just know that the bloodline of the Holy Grail, the holiness of the King of Kings, Lord of Lords, is Sananda, Jesus Christ. The Messiah was born through that lineage. How do we know that? Mary Magdalene anointed him with spikenard oil, which you'll learn from just said his name. At any rate, we learn from his readings of the stuff that spikenard is a special oil that is anointed for those who are, now it's a bloodline of the female, not the male. Okay. So if your bloodline goes to the female, then you can become a queen or a king. But you're not king by birth unless your mother is part of that bloodline. Mary Magdalene was part of that bloodline, and she anointed Jesus with spikenard, which indicated to anybody who knows about this, and you're not going to hear that from the Bible. She anointed his feet as the King of Kings, the Lord of Lords, the Messiah, and he is the one who is in charge of this planet Earth. He's the one in charge of the alliance, and it's through his, I'm not going to say it was a sacrifice. It's through his coming to the earth and being born and fulfilling the prophecies of the Messiah. He anchored the love quotient to the earth, as well as the gee, my mind's not working very good tonight. Anyway, so this is important. I'm trying to just go back and remember it. It'll come to me. So that's what our history is, and all of this other garbage. Thousands of years into that, through that, and we come up with Jesus as the one who had the bloodline from the Holy Grail. The Holy Grail is the female, and he came from the female, which is Mary his mother, and there's a whole family there on that side, the Essene communities. They all knew about that, and so did the Druids in Scotland, in that area. And then you have the Coptics over in Egypt, and those are the three separate entities that were part of the mystery school from Thoth. When Atlanta was going to be destroyed, Thoth took his mystery school, which teaches all of the things about the heavenly realms and who we are and so forth. He brought that mystery school over to Egypt and introduced it there. And there were three sets of people that went through those schools and really see, there's seven. Gosh, we're getting it. I apologize. Sorry. This is a long one. There's seven temples along the Nile River. The last temple is the Pyramid of Giza. And each one of those temples had certain rites and rituals and initiations that people would go through. Now, you won't hear anything in the Bible about that. But Jesus and all of his family went through the initiations in those seven temples. And there's readings and writings about that as well. That's why Jesus found what he calls the way. He was the teacher of righteousness that taught the way of the teacher of righteousness, which is the way to go back to God, or to get back to God, or not really to get back to, but to find out who you are as children of God. Okay, which gods are we talking about? The only one and only true God. Well, that's prime creator. But you can't say he's the only God because he had children. Born in the image and likeness of God. Each one of them are gods, and that's what I've been trying to tell people for years. We are sons and daughters of the creator that created everything. Well, I shouldn't say it that way. He created us, and we created everything that has been created. The only thing that has not been created is prime creator. Okay, so I'm answering that question in a number of different ways. Took a long time to get it there. And if anybody read my document that I wrote this past week being the February 24th, or 24th of I don't know what date it was, but I sent it out a little while ago. February in 2024. And that's what is Q doing? And I explained who Q is, not who Q is, but assume that you've learned a little bit about that, but why he said what he has said about med beds and so forth. Well, my understanding of who he is that he's a creator just like us. And I'm asking people, he tears down the med beds and says, why? Because you're supposed to be a gods. You are the gods. You don't have to need things like med beds or any of that sort of stuff to heal yourself if you knew who you were. And the way of the teacher of righteousness, the stuff that Jesus taught when he was here, would have let you know that you are the gods. The gods that have been created by Prime Creator. We are creators. Now, it's different than what you've been taught, and I understand that. And it's hard to believe, and I understand that. But I'm not going to deny what I know to be true. I've studied this. I've inquired about it. I know what I'm talking about. We are the creators that Prime Creator created to create everything else. We created third dimension. We've created it so well that we don't have a clue that this is not real. But it's just a creation. We came down here and projected ourselves into third dimension or into physicality in this third dimension. And here we are, trying to figure out what the hell we're doing here. This place is the closest place to hell you'll ever find. No place else in existence has third dimension like this where we kill our own children and eat them. Of course, we're not the ones that do it, but we're allowing those to do it. But anyway, won't go into that any further. I've gone around in circles. I hope it's helpful. There's no hierarchy. Not one person is greater than you are. Period, exclamation point. The only person you should worship, if there's worshiping is the right word to say, revere, is our Father in heaven, which is Prime Creator. Okay. So what is the one true God? Well, if we say there's only one God, then that's Prime Creator. But if you exclude all of his children as gods, then you're not accurate. So I'm just going to say that about the only true God. You know, there's not the sun gods and all that sort of stuff that's in the Egyptian mythology. There's names for those, but nobody, not even Q, is superior to who you are. And a lot of people think he is superior to because he says he's come from Prime Creator for the purposes of helping people to ascend. He has that responsibility. It is also the angelic realms. Angels are not human, and they have their own hierarchy, archangels and so forth. Angels came here to assist humans. to do whatever the humans want them to do. Okay. I'm going on and on. I apologize for those who only wanted 5 minutes. So I think I've answered that question pretty thoroughly. Let's go on to the next question.
Yes, you did, Ron. It was wonderful. And we will be back with the next question from a member.
Okay.